Great morning to you. It's April the 21st of 2020, and it's Dan's Daily Devotion time. And today's title is Who's Calling? And today we're going to read from Romans chapter 11 and 1 Samuel chapter 3. And before we get started in the Bible, I've got another object lesson for you today. This is a payphone. My dad gave it to me many years ago, and he restored it. He has a knack for doing that type of thing. He finds old antiques, or at least he used to, and he would restore them. And there for a while, he was on a payphone kick. So I think each one of us kids got one that was completely redone, and it looks like new, probably better than new. And for a long time, I had this hanging on my wall in our old house, and it actually still works. You know, you plug the phone line in through you young kids don't have any idea what I'm talking about here, but somebody my age, you'll know exactly. But this was plugged into the wall at the other house, so you could actually, dial out on it and call people, and you could receive phone calls on it too. So this is the part you hear from, and this is the part you talk into. You actually had to hold it to your ears like this. It's quite a far distance from what it is today. This is my wife's phone. To go from this to this in what seems like a short amount of time to me, to my kids, to Max here, it seems like a long time. But anyways, when somebody would call, it was kind of a big event. This is obviously a payphone. We had a phone similar, but you didn't have to put money into it when we were kids. But when somebody would call, it was kind of a big deal. You couldn't tell who was calling on it like you can today through caller ID. So as soon as the phone would ring, which wasn't really that often for us, we would all run to the phone to see who was calling. And it's kind of neat. Or the other time we would use an actual payphone is when we were done with school or done with baseball practice or football practice or whatever. We would pick it up and collect back to home, and Mom would answer and say, "Would you accept a call from Dan?" And she would say no. That way she didn't have to pay the fees, but she knew that it was time to come get us. So kind of a funny story, right? And anyways, when the phone would ring at home, we had a cord on it that was like, I don't know, seemed like a mile long at the time, but it was crazy long. It was long enough that when the phone would ring and we'd answer, you could run outside with the phone and get Mom or Dad or whoever was the phone call was for. And not only could you not see who was calling on these phones, there was no games to be played except for jump rope with the cord. We'd each hang on to it and jump with the cord. So anyways, kind of cool, old payphone. And that brings me to 1 Samuel chapter 3 and who is calling. I'm going to set this up because Samuel is, he's just a boy in this chapter here. And he's getting ready to take over for Eli. And Eli is not a good leader. In fact, he couldn't even lead in his own home, and that's really a big part of his demise and why Israel fell away from God for such a long time. And he lacked complete discipline. His kids were completely out of control, and he would not discipline them in any respect. And they were sinning, and there was no consequence to their sins from their father. And anyways, here comes Samuel along. And this is cool. Chapter 3. The boy Samuel ministered before the Lord under Eli. So he was a priest, a judge in training. He's the chosen. And in those days, the word of the Lord was rare. There were not many visions. Because people weren't obeying God, so he just didn't show up. And he was not acknowledged in any way. And then verse 2. One night Eli, whose eyes were becoming so weak that he could barely see, was lying down in his usual place. The lamp of God had not yet gone out. And Samuel was laying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. Then the Lord called Samuel. Samuel answered, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me?" But Eli said, "I did not call you. Go back and lie down." So he went and lay down. Again, the Lord called Samuel. And Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me?" "My son," Eli said, "I did not call. Go back and lie down." Now Samuel did not yet know the Lord. The word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel a third time, and Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, you called me." Then Eli realized that the Lord was calling the boy. So Eli told Samuel, "Go and lie down, and if he calls you, say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. See, Samuel didn't have caller ID. The Lord came and stood there, calling as the other times, "Samuel, Samuel." Then Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." So guys, is the Lord calling you today? Are you going to answer that call? Turn over with me to Romans chapter 11. Because what God is calling you for is awesome. In verse 29, it said, "For God's gifts and his call are irrevocable." So he's calling you and he's offering you the gift of eternal life. And I had to look up what irrevocable meant. It means that it will never, ever be taken away. So, that gift of eternal life, if you accept Jesus into your heart, into your life, he's never taken that gift away. He's given it to you for eternity. But if you don't answer the call, there's consequences. Just like in Eli. And I've read through Revelations. Man, it's not pretty. The consequences, the alternative to heaven. It's not something I ever want to go through. I don't want to be there. I don't want you to be there. Sorry I had to splice this, but Max was getting a little fidgety there and the phone was getting all over the place. But anyways, I love Max. He's awesome. And what I want to finish with is that Jesus is calling. And when he does, I just want you to answer. I want to answer. I do not want to be like Eli and have zero discipline over my life. Because you know what? Satan is a powerful dude. Like I said earlier, that the alternative to heaven is hell. And he is going to tempt us with absolutely everything he can because he knows we're trying to live for the Lord. He is going to come at us at all of our weaknesses with sin, with hurt, with pain. And he can bring it on. He can bring it on as much as he wants because my faith is in Jesus Christ. And no matter how bad it gets, how hard Satan tries, all I have to do is dig into the Word even that much harder and become that much closer to my God. And, once you get to the other side, there's nothing left that Satan can do. He is history. He's already defeated. But he loses. He flat out loses. If you ask Jesus into your heart, Satan loses. And I want God to win every time. I want, if you haven't asked Jesus into your heart, now is the perfect time. It is my joy to serve him, to love Jesus. But the alternative, there's definitely an alternative. And that's hell. And I don't want any of my friends, I don't want anybody there. Because Satan is a no good. He is worthless. And he shouldn't win at all. So, anyways, God's calling. Let's answer it. Have an awesome day. Have an awesome day. We'll see you.